Hey, what is up guys, welcome back to RB Hardware and a brand new video. We're gonna talk about the best budget gaming PC that you can build under $500 in 2022. Now you might be asking, with the ongoing GPU shortage, how is that even possible? And that is a great question, and I think you're gonna be quite surprised with today's PC build. Anyway, before we jump right into today's video, here is just a sneak peek how the PC performs in 720p and in full HD. We're gonna dive into the performance in greater detail a bit later in today's video. Now for the latest and best pricing of each PC component, have a look in the description where you find all items listed. So yeah, with that said, let's take a look at the processor pick and let's face the truth. In 2022, a 4-core and 4-thread CPU is simply not enough. It may be enough for games such as Rocket League and CSGO, but for big battle games such as Halo, Fortnite and Battlefield, a 4-core and 4-thread CPU will create small spikes of hiccups and lag, and that is something that we definitely want to avoid. So with that in mind, we have a few options to consider here. The best two alternatives, in my opinion, would be either to go with AMD's brand new 6-core 7nm Ryzen 5 5600G APU with a CPU and GPU combo for about $239 plus a $70 motherboard, which equals about $300 in total. The second option to consider will be a 4-core and 8-thread Core i3 CPU for about $92, an $89 motherboard plus a GT 1030 for about $70, and this equals about $250. Now if we take a look at the CPU performance, we can see that both the Ryzen and the Core i3 part are performing great. Although you can argue that the Ryzen 5 5600G is the winner thanks to it being 6 cores and 12 threads compared to the Core i3, which only got 4 cores and 8 threads. My point is, in the end of the day, both of these two options are great and worth considering in these difficult times. With that said, in order to stay within our limited $500 budget, the Core i3 will be our pick for today's PC build. With that said, let's move on and talk about the motherboard. I'm pairing up the Core i3 with the Gigabyte B560M. For $89, you're getting 4 DIMM slot and dual channel support for highest possible frame rate. You also find plenty of USB ports and an upgrade path to Intel's 11th gen CPUs as well, again for only $89. RAM is next up. Now we are aiming for a quick, snappy and lag-free PC that doesn't break the bank. With that in mind, in 2022 you don't want to go any lower than 16GB. Dual channel 3200MHz CL16 kits also gives us plenty of performance, and this kit for $58 ticks all the boxes. It is one of the cheapest kits you will find right now available on the market. Let's move on and talk about the storage, and I'm gonna keep this simple. I'm going to pick this Samsung 980 500GB SSD. This is room enough to fit maybe 5 to 6 games, and you can always upgrade this to a 1TB unit if you want to as well. Anyway, the 500GB unit is selling for about $50. But let's talk about the component that will have the biggest impact on the gameplay and frame rate. Now so far we spent about $300 in total. Now I'm allocating about $100 for the case and the power supply, and that will leave us with about $100 left for the GPU, and for that you can actually get an NVIDIA GT 1030 card GDDR5 2GB from the second market like eBay. Now I have a link down below that takes you directly to the listing. You can either bid on a card or buy it right away. Now keep in mind, before purchasing from eBay, make sure that the card is in working condition and that the possible fan or fans are working. eBay actually have a policy where you can refund your purchase if the conditions stated in the auction aren't met. Now if we take a look at the performance, the card is doing pretty good in many popular esport games. managing to stay close to the magic 60 FPS mark in most games tested at 1080p low to medium settings. Now for more demanding non-esport games such as Far Cry, 720p is what you wanna aim for. Now I do think it is important to understand that this card isn't a GTX 1060 or a Radeon RX 580 where you can expect to run any game at 1080p high settings. That is simply not possible with this budget GPU. This card is simply put meant for esport like games first and foremost. That being said, if you are interested in playing AAA titles, I have plenty of videos on the channel including these cards if you're interested. Anyway, if we compare the performance between the Ryzen 5 5600G and the Core i3 and GT 1030, we can see that in Dota 2 for example, the GT 1030 is a few FPS faster. Rainbow Six also ran a few percent faster on the GT 1030. Now looking at the rest of the games tested, we can see that the 1030 is showing solid numbers in several popular esport titles at 1080p low settings, even high settings possible in several of these esport games, which yeah, I'm happy to report. Keep in mind though guys, if you do wanna play games such as Halo, Forza and Battlefield, this PC won't be able to do that. Instead, have a look down below where you got a $600 build that will do that with ease. Next up, let's cover the power supply. Now here is my thought process. Once the GPU supply issue gets taken care of, I'm thinking of upgrading this PC with a much more powerful GPU. Therefore, I'm gonna pick a 500 watt power supply, and that will leave us plenty of headroom over for upgrades later down the road. Now last but definitely not least, let's take a look at our case choice. Now I'm picking a chassis with great cooling and a bit of RGB here. This is a $70 case from Upcomcore called T250X, and it ticks all those boxes with plenty of cooling and a bit of well needed RGB. Now if you're unable to find this case in your region, I highly recommend having a look at the Cooler Master MB320, and you'll find this case linked up down below. Now here is what the final part list is looking like, and all PC components are linked up down below. Now if you're looking for a complete step-by-step guide how to put together a PC build like this, I actually got a video linked up down below where I'm using the Cooler Master case as an example. Now this video took a lot of time to complete, so if you enjoyed it, please leave a like, make sure to subscribe to never miss any of my future gaming PC builds. Thank you so much for watching.